What's going on, guys? Anthony Mondo here. Today I want to talk about the fall transition and what baits I tend to veer to during this time of year and what I prefer over others. So today I'm going to show you what I like for this time of year. We're not quite in that fall time yet, but we're just about to get there. Those fish are starting to get up on those shad. They're pushing them. You need to cover lots and lots of water right now. They are never going to be in one spot. I haven't found them in one spot, but they are there. You just gotta be patient and cover lots and lots of water. So guys, what I like to throw at this time of year, I'll start with like swim baits and chatter baits and things like that. So if they're in grass, which they will be on depending on what lakes you're on, we're out here on Chickamauga. They are fish in grass, on the outer flats, the deeper flats, and the points. So I got a couple different things that I like to throw right now. And so when I'm fishing grass, I'm gonna throw a swim jig. Now, there's two different trailers I'm gonna go with the swim jig. This is just your regular old Kitech. It's got a bit, big, wide swing on that tail. And then I'm gonna go to a Berkley Power Swimmer. It's a lot stiffer tail, lot tighter action, and I will go between the two to see what the fish prefer. Now, you may not think it makes that big of a difference, right? But it makes a huge difference on how this bait moves. This bigger thump, there's more roll, this is more erratic. It's, it's all over the place. Where that tighter tail, stop swinging around, with that tighter tail, this bait is gonna be more streamlined. It's gonna have a little wobble to it. You just gotta see how active those fish are. Okay, so in grass, I'm gonna throw a swim jig to cover lots of water with to start with, if they're not eating top water, right? So if we're in grass, they're eating top water, I'm gonna throw a cane walker. Just Berkley cane walker, walking bait. I'm gonna throw this over the top of those grass flat areas, up shallow. See if they'll blow up on this. Now, right now, the top water out here is kind of a hit or miss. They're not completely committing to it yet. They're still really focused in on those shad, and they're kind of just ignoring bigger things, right? I've switched to smaller ones, haven't had much luck. It's on some lakes it's good. Right now it's not good right now out here for some reason, but it's getting there. I've caught a few fish on it, but it's just not having. Don't get stuck to one way. Top water's good this time of year, just not right now. I think we're still a little too early in that fall transition to be throwing a top water, in my opinion. I'm also gonna throw some kind of frog. Again, a little bit later in the season. Either, just your standard frog, or like a poppin' shad. I think it's called a poppin' perch. So one of these two is what I'm gonna go with. Either a shad presentation or a frog. Again, I'm gonna let the fish tell me what they want. I'm gonna go between the two. Sometimes they want the little smaller profile, sometimes they want something a little bigger. Just depends, you gotta play with it. So those are gonna be my two, on top of the grass. Whoa. This giant osprey just flew by and dumped a carp right in the water. That thing was massive. Look at him, he's flying around. You see him in the trees up there? He's right there. He just came over here and jumped into massive carp right there in the water. That was cool. Anyways, what I was saying is I'm gonna throw a frog or some kind of like shad top water kind of thing. They make a lot. There's like the live target ones. I can't remember what they're called, but they look like a shad. Play with them. Frog, shad imitator. They'll blow up on them. Just, be patient. I won't throw a frog necessarily if I'm trying to cover lots of water. I'll throw the cane walker instead. When the cane walker gets blown up and they miss it, or they keep blowing up on that and it's getting snagged in that milfoil that's growing up, it's dying off, it's getting stuck in that, then I'll switch over to this. I know they're there, I'm gonna slow it down, and I'm gonna throw a frog or a poppin' perch of some sort. So now, fishing edge of grass. Okay, if the grass isn't too thick and I'm not gonna get hung up all the time, I'm gonna throw a chatterbait. My opinion, I like it best when there's a little chop on the water. If there's no chop on the water, I'm gonna go with the that swim bait, or I'm sorry, swim jig. If there's no chop, I'm gonna go with swim jig. If there's a little bit of chop, I'm gonna switch over to the chatterbait. Just a preference of mine, prefer it that way. Found out it does a little better for me. all these things are gonna be shad imitators because this time of year, that's what they're focusing in on. Now, this is just a little Berkeley trailer. It's for chatterbaits. They have a big one and a small one. I'm downsizing this time of year again, like I said. I'm gonna go with the smaller one. Gives it a little bit smaller profile. Also depends on what your bait is in your lake, what size they are. Mine here are really, really small right now. You know, there's that first year's hatch. They're still really, really tiny. So, you know, I'm gonna go with that. It just makes it a little slimmer, a little smaller. Found they like it a little better. Now, we're on open banks. There's not much grass around, but there is some cover. What to throw, right? What do you throw? Always gonna have a jig in my hand. Now this is just a little tiny flipping jig. I prefer this over a big bulky jig right now. Just, it's gonna be a reaction kind of thing. I'm going down the bank, I'm gonna throw crankbait, stuff like that, cover lots of water. If I come across some kind of stump or lay down that looks good, I'm just gonna, you know, always have this on my deck, just pull it out real quick, do a couple flips around it and keep moving. But I prefer a smaller jig at this time of year. You know, going smaller with a jig to me makes more sense because, you know, they're focusing on that smaller bait fish that that they're schooling up on and things like that. If you throw some big old giant jig in there, I think they're kind of just gonna look at it like, whatever, you know, not really react to it too much. And if they do, you know, you will get some, but I think your better odds are gonna be with a smaller one for quantity and even quality. You know, the smaller jig matches a hatch again, and I think they'll react to it more. So I'm gonna go with the smaller flipping jig. Now, you're going down the bank, you could throw the cane walker, right? If they're not hitting top water, you still need to cover lots of water. So I'm gonna switch over to a square bill. Now, start with your full size square bill. Okay, it's just a Berkeley square bill, okay? Goes 5 to 7 feet. You know, I'm gonna stick on those banks, I'm gonna throw this, I'm gonna cover water, okay? If they're not hitting the big one consistently, you're getting bites here and there, you're seeing the fry small, switch over to a, well, if I can get it, switch over to a little tiny guy, okay? Look at the size difference. The other day, I was throwing the big one, you know, I was getting bites, but I wasn't satisfied, okay? I felt like there were more fish there that I could have caught. So I cut this off and I switched over to the little smaller one. You know, this is just 3 to 5 feet, little tiny guy. I mean, look at the size difference. And I went back over those areas and I slammed them. You know, 3s, 4s, 5s, 2s. I mean, it was all over the board. On this little tiny guy, they were just chomping it up. And just that little size of a bait change, you know, made all the difference. It put more fish in the boat, okay? I was actually getting smaller fish with the bigger bait right now. Smaller one, I was getting bigger fish. It was a little weird. So guys, don't forget to mess around with the sizes and, you know, just keep playing with them. Another thing I'll have tied up, if I see that those fish are getting kind of spooky by that square bill, kind of, you know, having that hunting action, I'll either go with the more streamlined square bill where it has a little tighter wobble, or I'm gonna switch over to a Berkeley Fritz side, okay? Really, really tight action to this bait, just real tight. And this time of year, I love throwing these, especially going into the winter time. That tighter action, bait tends to like kind of get lethargic and everything seems to be moving a little slower. That's what I'm throwing at these. It's a Berkeley Fritz side. They have a giant one that I can't get my hands on right now because we're having a hard time getting stuff, but they have a bigger one. They got, you know, you can call this like the medium sized one, and they have the little one. Great colors. I love these things. They put tons and tons of fish in the boat just on how tight that wobble is. They can't resist it. So I'll throw these guys also when I feel like those fish are starting to slow down a little bit, getting a little more lethargic, and you know, I'll play with the sizes again. The big one, the bigger one, or the small one, and I'll just, you know, run the banks, cover lots of water this time of year. It's hard to find them. Well, it's easy to find the bait, in my opinion, but finding the bait with bass around it right now is difficult because there is so much out there. There's so much water to cover out there. You'll find the bait, but then there won't be bass around there for some reason. And you'll go to another bait pile, and you know, it might be 100 yards down. You'll find another bait pile, and you know, there's bass all over them. So guys, if you scanning around and you see bait, but there's no bass, you know, don't get stuck on them. You know, don't get stuck. Hey, I found bait. I'm gonna stop and fish. Fish it for, you know, a little bit. If nothing happens, maybe those bass aren't on that school yet. Keep moving. Don't get stuck. Just keep moving. You need cover. Tons and tons of water this time of year, and I can't stress that enough. So guys, by showing you these reaction baits, I hope it helps you put more fish in the boat this fall. And good luck, because it can be a tough time of year. Keep your head up, because you'll get them. All right. See you guys. Thanks for watching.